Toomey, and today I'm going to be going over Widget Instance Options. Now, why are Widget Instance Options good? Why do you want to use them in your custom widgets? Well, let's imagine that our customer wants a widget on their homepage that is easily edited. They want to be able to change things like the link and the description and the title to whatever information is most relevant to their user at that time. Maybe they want to update it for holidays or different times of the year, different links they want things to go to. And you don't really want them having to go into the code to change those types of things. So we add in widget options. You can see I've added this widget here that's going to fill our requirements. It's got a title, it's got a short description, a button, and if we click this button, it'll go somewhere, but we don't have a URL yet, so it's not going anywhere just yet. When we control right click and open the instance options, you'll see this is what our user is going to be able to change without having to go into the code. They can change the title to say catalog. They can change the button to say go to catalog, add in a short description. This is a link to the catalog where you can find helpful resources. And we can make that URL go to the catalog. And if we save that, see, I didn't have to change the code to do any of that. And now this widget is totally updated. And if we click it, it's going to take us to the catalog. And I didn't have to touch the code at all to do that. You'll also notice that I have 3 instances of this widget, and it only changed this one widget, which is great because that means I can build a widget once, put it on a page multiple times or on multiple pages, and change it to have different things in it, all without having to rebuild the widget, and it allows our user to change important information without having to touch the code. So how do we add these kinds of options? The first thing you're going to do is control click on your widget and go to Widget Option Schema. This is where you'll add your options. These are the 4 that I have already added. The things you're going to want to define when you add an option is the label. This is what your user is going to see, so make it something that they'll understand. The name, which will go off of your label, but you can change it if you need to. The type, which is string, but you can change it to other things like reference to reference a table or choice values. You can change it to a few things, but string will really get you quite far. In fact, all of my widget options are string. And we're going to add another fun widget option, which is a string, but it's actually going to display an image for us. You can add in a default value. It's not required to add a default value, but I like to add a default value because it's helpful to your user when they add this widget to a page, or when you add it to a page, it's not going to show up blank where you have those values. So if there wasn't a default value where it said item title, this widget would just show a blank space, and you might not know that there are configurable elements to that widget. And you can also add a section of the instance options where you would like it to show if that's relevant to you. So you'll see as we scroll down, I've got all of my widget options, and this is how they look. I've added in the default values. Let's save that, although we haven't done anything quite yet. And let's open up so you can see those default values at work. See, they're kind of grayed out and the user can type over them like we did when we changed this one to catalog. And that's helpful so that the user can see the widget populated with sort of some demo data. You'll notice I didn't add a default value for the URL just because I didn't want that to get confusing and the user isn't sure why it's always going to a certain URL. So I left that one blank and they can add in what they would like. So once you add it in the option schema, it doesn't automatically just show up in the widget. we have to actually reference it in our HTML. And to do that, you're going to have to open your widget in the editor so you can get to the code. You'll see my widget is pretty simple. It's just a few lines, and I don't have any server or client script to be able to reference our widget options. I do have some CSS on this widget, but that's not relevant to our widget options. The way you're going to reference your option after you created it is options. You'll always start with options dot title or whatever you named it. So I have options dot short description, options dot button title, whatever you named your option, not the label, the name that you gave it. Add it after your options dot and make sure it's in between these double curly braces. Now let's take a look here. You'll notice that this one looks a little bit different. That's because this option, the URL, is within our A tag. When it's within the visible part, so for example, this title is actually going to show to the user. This URL isn't going to show to the user, so that's within the tag. And I have to do something a little bit different. When you add it, you'll have those double curly braces, but you'll prefix it with 2 colons and then do the same thing, options dot whatever you named your option. So button URL. And that will get you all of your options in here. And whenever a user changes it, it will know to populate the short description or the title with whatever the user input. So let's add a new widget option. Let's say our user wants to add an image to make it a little bit prettier, and they might want to add a little more visual context. So let's add our option schema. First, you'll notice that over here in the widget editor, we have these 3 lines. If we open that up, we can also access our option schema from the widget editor. So we'll open that, we'll click a plus, and you'll have to scroll down because it's going to add our new option at the bottom. Let's call this image, and it's named it for us, image, and I can change that if I would like. We're going to keep it as a string type. You might be questioning why it's a string type when we're wanting to import an image, but it's a little bit fiddly to input an image, but it's a great way to make this more customizable for your users without having to rely on icons. They can use their own company images and whatnot. We're not going to add in a default value, although you can if you would like, if you want it to always show a certain image when the user uploads the widget. So let's save this. Remember what we named it, image, save. And now I'm going to add in this code that I have to populate an image on our tile. When you add in an image, you're going to want to put the source src equals, then your quotation marks, and in between the quotation marks, remember when we're within the tag, how we call it. Double curly braces, double colon, options dot image, or whatever you named it. So let's save that. We're going to reload our page. And nothing's going to show quite yet because we haven't actually added the image. We've just given the user the option to add the image. But you'll notice they all now have this blank space above them where the image is supposed to go. So if we control click, we open our instance options, you'll see I have a new space for image. Now, how do you add an image in here? Well, it's pretty easy. You'll go back to the back end of your instance, and you're going to go to the images table. I've already added this ServiceNow image within here. And what you'll do is you'll upload an image to the image table and you'll give it a name. You want to remember this name, and it always needs to be suffixed by whatever type of image it is. So like .png or .jpeg or .gif, SVG, whatever you're using. You're going to copy this name. Remember, when you do this, your image has to be uploaded to the images table, which you can access here under System UI Images. You'll upload your image here, copy the name. Let's go back to the portal and we're going to paste that name into our image string field. And that's going to tell our HTML, hey, I want to call this specific image. We're going to click save. And let's see what that does for us. It's refreshed and perfect. We have a beautiful image above our tile, and we can put different images for each of our widgets. So this is a really great way. You can see in just a few minutes, I've gotten a pretty custom widget, and it's reusable. It's easily editable by our user without having to touch the code, all with just a few lines of code and adding in some instance options. I highly recommend that you use instance options when you're creating widgets, because it not only creates less work for your user, it creates less work for you.